Hello, my name is James Cole. I'm one of the co-pastors of the Rock Church in Elizabethtown, Kentucky. And we just want to take a little time with you today to share with you some thoughts that we believe that the Lord has concerning the issue in our society today of homosexuality. This is one of those issues that has been brought to the forefront of our society by those that would want to pursue and to push a lifestyle upon our nation, which is what we believe to be totally unbiblical. And because of that, we've had to take a stand and to simply say that we do not believe that this is what the Bible teaches, and we are very concerned about the effects that it's going to have upon our nation. To begin, I want to just start by sharing what we believe that the Lord wanted when He created man and woman. This basic unit, the man and the woman, marriage, and being together and raising a family, is the basic unit of society. And we believe that it is God ordained. When we look into the scriptures in Genesis chapter 1 and in verse 26, it says, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the sky, and over all of the cattle, and over all of the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." And it says in verse 27, "And God created man in His own image. In the image of God He created them, male and female." And in verse 28 it says, "And God blessed them, and God said to them, Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it." Then in the second chapter of Genesis, in verse 24, He said, "For this cause a man shall leave his mother and father, and shall cleave to his wife, and they shall become one flesh." Now, in ordaining this unit of relationship between the male and the female, I first want to use one of the terms from the verse in chapter 1, where God told them to go forth, to be fruitful and multiply. Now, I believe that in and of itself is one of the reasons why God created us as we are, male and female, because He said to be fruitful and multiply. Now, with a man and a woman, that is possible. But with the homosexual relationship, it is in no way possible. One male cannot impregnate another male, nor can that happen with a female-female relationship. It has to happen between a man and a woman. A second part of this basic unit is that they will have children. And as they have children, that becomes that basic, I'm referring to this over and over, the basic unit of society. Because the children raised in a godly home by godly parents who will both love, nurture, encourage, and teach and train them will grow and become the next generation of people to carry on the standard which God has set within our nation, the standard that He wants for His people. And without this basic unit, then the generations will not be able to be carried on as they should be. Within the homosexual community, they would like for you to think that they should be able to raise children and have children. Well, first, as I've already said, that is a practical impossibility. Having children is not possible. But even if they have children in some other way, they are going to raise children outside of God's ordained order of a man and a woman. two women or two men cannot raise a child as adequately as can a male and a female. See, a child needs both influences in their life. God has made man and woman different, but yet each contributes to the upbringing of the next generation. A mother can impart things into her daughter that a father never can. But on the other hand, a father can impart things into his daughter that a mother can't. And the same with a son. There is something about the relationship between a son and his father that can never be matched by a son having two mothers. This is outside of God's perfect order. And because of that, God does not bless, nor has he ordained these types of relationships. I believe that even now, we are only beginning to see the very tip of the iceberg of the situations, and yes, I'll even say the problems, that are going to be created as the children of these homosexual relationships begin to grow and develop. I believe we're going to see many young people who are suffering from different types of emotional concerns and emotional issues because of the fact that they are going to be raised by two men or two women. And try as you might, I do not believe that a female can appropriately identify with a young man as he becomes a man, as he goes through puberty and becomes a man. Nor do I believe that a man can appropriately identify with a young woman who is going through that same growing, that same maturation process, and identify with her and address her concerns appropriately. They're just unable to do so. And because of that, I do not believe that this type of situation is feasible, much less biblical. Another concern that I have regarding the homosexual issue is that of behavior. God blesses righteous behavior. And nowhere in the Bible, either in the Old Testament or the New Testament, does God bless the issue of homosexuality. And yes, it is mentioned for those that would say, well, that's an Old Testament prohibition. It is also mentioned in the New Testament. For instance, in 1 Corinthians 6:9, it says that those who practice unrighteousness shall not enter the kingdom of heaven. And then it gives a list of those that will be unable to enter if they continue to practice and do not repent. And it lists other types of sexual sins. It lists adulterers. It lists fornicators. But it also lists homosexuals. And so any perversion of God's ordained order of one man and one woman is unbiblical and will not be rewarded nor regarded as being righteous. And so that behavior is one that should be repented of and should be changed. Now, I do want to address just briefly the issue of behavior. Many homosexuals would want us to believe that they have a civil right to unions or to marriages, to raising of children, and so forth. And they want to equate it with civil rights. But I say to you that I believe it is more one of behavior. What behaviors will our society allow in our nation? Homosexuality is not something that people are born with. I know that many would want you to believe that. But as of yet, there has been no scientific evidence of which I am familiar And I'm not an expert in all of these things, I will grant. But no scientific evidence, no medical evidence has been shown as of yet to indicate that this is something that is genetic, but it is a behavior. Now, if it is a behavior, we as a society regulate all types of behavior. However, we do not, if the society so chooses, have to allow certain types of behaviors. And we need to determine what societal standard or norm we are going to allow in our country. And I believe we need to stand firmly on this issue and say homosexual marriage and homosexual unions should not be allowed in our nation. And I know that there will be those who might see this film that would be very angry with what I say. But I believe for the sake of our society that we need to say we will not allow this. I go a step further by saying also that if we allow this behavior, this could well lead to a situation or to a position where we have to allow other types of what I call ungodly or unbiblical behavior. For instance, the next thing that might be brought before the courts would be the issue of polygamy. One man having many wives. Or let's totally be free and say one woman with many husbands. Why should it only be the man that has many wives? But polygamy is a type of behavior. And if we allow homosexuality, who's to say that we should not also allow, if people so choose, to allow polygamy? One other thing that we could even get into is the issue of minor sexual relationships. There are some, and they may be extreme at this point, but it may grow. There are even some who would say that it should be all right for a mature person to marry or to have sexual relations with a minor. Now, for many of us today, this is something that is totally outrageous to think about this. And yet, who is to say that in the coming months, years, that somewhere somebody might say this now should be allowed? I believe that because of some of the decisions that are being made in our society today, if we do not right the ship, that we could find ourselves in a very dire circumstance in the coming years. And we need to determine now, as a nation, we need to determine now, as Christian people, what are we going to allow, what are we going to condone, and above all, and most important, what are we going to say is God's standard? And I think we need to go back to the Word and really understand that homosexuality is not a biblically approved behavior. I thank you for your attention today. Hope this will help, and may God bless all of you.